With the release of MechWarrior 5 and the eventual release of Armored Core 6, I began to wonder, what the hell happened to the Front Mission series? This was a series of RPGs published by Square and then later Square Enix across several console generations. The last major release we got was Front Mission Evolved back in 2011 to a very poor reception. There was also that 2019 game Left Alive, but the less we say about that game, the better. I've never played the game myself, so I wondered if it's really that bad. Hopefully, I do not end up regretting my decision. When you start the game, you pick your difficulty level and are put in the tutorial. Just to show how lazy of a PC port this is, you are given no button prompts of what you're actually supposed to press. Outside of guessing, I had to stop the tutorial at multiple parts just to find out what the hell the controls are. I played this on mouse and keyboard, but it definitely plays better with a controller. After that, you're thrown into your first mission going down a pretty linear corridor. As I've often said, linearity isn't always a bad thing, and even linear level design can work if done correctly. Unfortunately, the level design in combat is just mediocre. The game basically consists of you clearing waves and waves of enemies as you move from one area to the next. There's a bit of platforming thrown in to make things a bit more interesting, but that's about it. In your mech known as Vanzas in the series, you are initially equipped with a melee weapon, a machine gun, and a missile launcher. Early on, these weapons do a considerable amount of damage, but end up feeling weak and repetitive pretty soon after encountering spongier enemies. Seriously, some of these enemies, especially boss battles, take so many hits and you'll go down like a wet napkin in just a handful of them. It's a very odd contrast that I'm just not a fan of. Even punching the hell out of enemy mech starts to feel weak pretty quickly. Outside of the game just feeling boring and generic throughout, my biggest gripe is in regards to the AI. The enemy AI has pinpoint accuracy while your friendly squad mates are completely useless. For some reason, they do a pitiful amount of damage when attacking enemies. Even when shooting a whole barrage of missiles at them, they won't even damage the paint job. Say what you will about MechWarrior 5, at least the squad AI in that game can get kills. Heck, Sumika from Armored Core Project Phantasma was far more useful and actually was a badass. And that was on PlayStation 1. Eventually, you'll be given the ability to customize your mech. It's pretty basic in customization with not many parts or weapons to choose from. Thankfully, there are a good amount of decals to choose from, as well as the all-important color wheel. They even had an Nvidia decal to work with and a gloss slider, so here's what I came up with. Graphically, the game is below average and uninspired and even looks to be a generation back from the 7th gen. The cutscenes themselves are pretty good, but the actual in-game graphics leave a lot to be desired. It doesn't help that there is a shade of brown everywhere thanks to this game being part of the 7th generation. Thank God we've moved past that phase. I guess I have to comment on the story because it does exist. It's pretty generic and not very memorable. It's a damn shame considering the more interesting narratives and characters of games prior. I assume this was some attempt to westernize the game, a trend that was huge in the 7th gen and I really got sick of. It really is just there to get from one area to the next. Seriously, this game is so by the numbers that it can have any kind of name on it. It doesn't even have to say Front Mission or anything like that, and I probably wouldn't even notice. After only an hour and a half in, I was ready to wrap it up for how overall bored I was. Unfortunately, I had to make sure I got to these on-foot sections first. On paper, it doesn't sound bad to include some third-person shooting to give some variety. However, the shooting just doesn't feel good. The machine gun is whatever, but the shotgun feels awful. How you not make a shotgun feel anything but satisfying is truly an accomplishment. Not only are these sections generic and mediocre, but also where I experienced my first crash. I will take it as a sign from the divine to move on. Alright, I'm just going to keep this short and sweet to wrap this up. I would recommend everyone to stay far away from this one, even if you had a curiosity like I did. Even with my low expectations, it was incredibly disappointing and just the textbook definition of mediocre. Nothing feels good, nothing is enjoyable, and I just want to get the hell out of here. Thank you guys for watching. Let's hope for better games in the future. And this is Powerhouse, signing off.